G'day, here I am firing up another vlog. Second day in a row. This may become a thing. Um, yes, I'm firing up the vlog today. The one I did yesterday was kind of a rambling sort of multiple subject thing with my fragmented brain, trying to get into gear and what have you. This one is shorter, more focused, one subject. Um, so I guess you could say the triggering, this what something triggered. I saw a news item, and this is the trigger article, which goes into a deeper discussion, which I feel quite passionate about, and I don't think it's talked about enough. So hence here I am. BBC News article from yesterday. The headline was "Most children sleep with mobile phone beside bed." So I'm reading out the article first, and then I'm going to get into it. So, article by Sean Coughlin, BBC News Family and Education correspondent, 30th of January 2020. So basically, yeah, I'm going to read this out. Maybe comment. More than half of children say they sleep with their mobile phone beside their bed, according to an annual survey of young people's use of media. But before I continue on with this, I say, this is a great illustration. I had this idea the other day where you take two snapshots in time. So you snapshot the present, and somebody like Alan Watts would say the present is the only moment that is real. You get the present moment, forget past, forget future. The present is the only thing that's real. The present moment in time, right now, as I speak, I feel that. Yeah, present time. Um, the take two snapshots in time: the present and the past. So imagine if you were able to take two snapshots: the present moment and then some moment from the past. For example, the 1980s. As I'm regularly doing this myself now, as I'm getting older. Um, you take your snapshot from the 1980s. If you're an older person, you remember the 1980s, and the snapshot from present day, and you just do a little comparison between the two. See how things have changed. Things have changed a lot, even in just those few decades. This is the 1980s, not that long ago, really. 90s, 2000s, 2010s. We're just entering the 2020s now, so what we're talking about here, we're going back 30 to 40 years, 3 to 4 decades ago. Things have changed so much in just 3 to 4 decades in some areas. And I got sidetracked, so back to the article. The Childwise report found children getting mobiles at an earlier age, with most now having their own phone by the age of 7. The average time spent on mobiles by 7 to 16-year-olds is 3 hours and 20 minutes a day. Stop, pause, snapshot that I talked about. This is what I do. So, I go back to the 1980s when I was a child, or a young teen growing up. So the 1970s was me growing up as a child, and the 1980s decade was me growing up as a teenager. So I go back to the 1980s. I'll read this article here, and I'm like, what? When I was between 7 and 16 years old, how much time did I spend per day on my mobile? I know the answer to that question. The answer to that question is 0 minutes, 0 hours. Because we're going back to an era before the mobile phone was invented. The article continues. Researcher Simon Leggett says mobiles can, quote, dominate children's lives. They didn't dominate my life because they didn't exist back then. When phones are always so close at hand as a, quote, private and personal technology, Mr. Leggett says it can be tough for parents to put limits on how children use them. The survey, based on interviews with 2,200 children in the UK, they were aged between 5 to 16 years of age, shows the pivotal place of the mobile phone in young lives. Scrolling down here. There are 50% who always have the phone beside their bed. So that's over half. 44% who feel, quote, uncomfortable if they are ever without a phone signal. Wasn't a problem back in my day. My own memories of my own childhood growing up and what have you, it's pretty good. Some people may say I'm looking back with rose-tinted spectacles, but I look back on the 1980s decade as rocking music. There's Iron Maiden, there was Black Sabbath, there was the top 40 charts was filled with vibrant, varied music from multiple artists whose bands still played real musical instruments. And it was great. My memories of the 1980s decade was, vibrant, pretty positive vibed decade. And this was before the era of the mobile phone. Gotta get back to the article now, I keep sidetracking myself. There are 42% who say they keep their phone on them at all times and never turn it off. 42% of young people keep their phone on them at all times and they never turn their phone off. What I've got to say about that is, so imagine for a minute it's the middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you are asleep in bed. Ask yourself a question. Do you need your mobile phone turned on by the side of your head? This is an important point which I'm getting onto after I've read out this article, by the way. Do you need that thing turned on by the side of your head at 4 a.m. while you're asleep? Are you really expecting an urgent phone call or a text at 4 o'clock in the morning while you're asleep? It's basically the point I'm making. I continue with the article now. Even though the average age of owning a phone is becoming younger, the step up to secondary school at the age of 11 is still the point at which many children get a phone and ownership becomes, quote, almost universal. For more than 70% of children, their phones will be connected to the internet. Another important point. Whether it is chatting to each other, watching entertainment, or getting information, mobile phones are the main online gateway for young people. For listening to music, a mobile phone is much more widely used than listening to a radio nowadays. That's another biggie. From somebody who grew up in the 1980s, it is pretty big news to me. Of course, as a teenager growing up in the 1980s and listening to the radio was pretty much, uh, oh, okay. How did we listen to music in the 1980s decade before the era of mobile phones? We stuck a radio on, an analog radio, Radio 1, Radio 2, whatever. Wasn't that much of a choice available on the old analog radio, AM band, FM band frequencies. BBC kind of dominated back then with the radio. Remember the Radio 1 road shows and all that stuff from the 1980s, for people that are old enough. So in the 1980s, you listened to music, you stuck a radio on, or you went to your record deck. I haven't got one at the moment, but vinyl record players, 7-inch or albums, or the larger sized discs. You put the vinyl record in the record player with then you put the stylus needle thing, and you get it going, and this round disc would rotate around on the deck with the needle, as you listen to vinyl records, complete with static crackles and whatever sort of imperfections were on that disc that made the audio quality not 100% perfect. So you got crackles and bits of noises sort of interspersed with the music that you were listening to on your stereo system. So so that was pretty much how we listened to music in the 1980s. Also during the course of the 1980s, that was when the Walkman was invented. I got memories of that as well. The stereo Walkman cassette tape deck thing that you could carry around. You put batteries in it and a little pair of headphones. So you could stick a tape in there. You could listen to the radio on it as well. I had one that could play magnetic cassette tapes, and you could listen to AM, FM radio on it. Powered by batteries. So that was the beginning of being able to walk around. You could go for a walk and stick your Walkman on, and still, listen to your favorite tracks or whatever. I got massively sidetracked again. Sorry. Back to the article. For listening to music, a mobile phone is much more widely used than listening to a radio nowadays. The survey shows a media landscape dominated by digital and on-demand services. YouTube, a veteran by online standards, remains dominant, used by 61% of children every day, mostly on mobile phones. It is the favorite app and website of this age group, used as the most typical starting point for videos, particularly funny clips, listening to music, how-to tutorials, or watching programs. This is followed by Snapchat, Instagram, and this year's fast riser TikTok, with WhatsApp also amongst the most regularly used. Showing the speed of change, Facebook is not even in the top 10 of favorites. In terms of watching programs or video content, YouTube is again the most popular service, followed by Netflix. This is, I would imagine Amazon Prime's up there somewhere too. This is a resolutely online younger generation. Only about 1 in 5 say they mostly watch programs on an actual television set. 1 in 5. 1 in 5. People from the younger generation still watch programs on a television set. Sign of the times, eh? The science fiction adventure Stranger Things is the most popular program on all channels, alongside long-standing series Friends and SpongeBob SquarePants. For young Netflix viewers, Stranger Things is the top pick, along with Friends, Riverdale. But for parents, research director Mr. Leggett says the combination of mobile phones and internet access can make it difficult to know what children are watching. And that's true. The moment a child owns a mobile phone, it can be a challenge to monitor what your child is accessing online because it's such a private technology. Well, of course it is, that most keep literally close to their chest, said Mr. Leggett. So, if they're watching a lot of stuff on a mobile phone, you've got something which is small enough to fit inside your pocket. Earlier in the article, they mentioned a large percentage of them have got it turned on by the side of their head when they sleep at night. So obviously the phone is there at night under the duvet or whatever. You don't know what the heck they're looking at. That's the end of the article, by the way. That was the bottom section of the article. No comments. No. Oh, there is. I've seen it now. View comments. You've got to click on it. And so I'm going to put a link to this article down below the video. Proud Cornishman says smartphones for young kids truly, truly wrong. How are these parents able to monitor what their kids are accessing, who they are making contact with or being contacted by? Because that's a very important point, actually, in this modern age, or the pervert grooming and stuff. An awful lot of that is going on online. So there's a massive, great safeguarding discussion that has to be had over all of this stuff as well. Parents can believe they have parental controls on these phones. Yes, sure they do. Not in capital letters. This comment was removed because it broke the house rules. Whoops. Just taking a look at some of the comments below this article here. When I was, this is from somebody here. When I was young, porn was hard to reach on the top shelf. Oh, I remember that era. You go to the, I guess this is going back to like the 1980s, early 1990s type era. Newsagents. So I used to go to a newsagents regularly to buy like a computer magazine they had back in the day, PC Gamer, whatever. It was up 64 magazine, computer related magazines, and in the good old newsagents back in the day. And the top shelf was usually where the porn mags were. So, and if you were young, you were small. So, can't reach, oh damn, can't reach the top shelf. So this person says, when I was young, porn was hard to reach on the top shelf. We even had to use encyclopedias. How times change. Happy parenting. Somebody says it must be the fault of Brexit. Any more interesting comments here? Young children don't need smartphones in the first place. The technology can become addictive. Do what's best for your child and be a parent instead of an enabler. A lot of people, including children, will have their mobile phone next to their bed because they do not have another alarm clock and are using the alarm feature on their phone to wake up in the morning. Yeah, okay, I've not heard that one before yet. Very true, but somebody said very true, but I'm one of those. But little children have parents to wake them up. Yeah, that's another good point. So, so that's the excuse, is it, for having your mobile phone switched on by the side of your head all night? I'm using it as an alarm clock. There's ways around that. Yeah, so there's loads of comments under this article here. For secondary school aged children, their phone is their entire social life outside of school. So if you prohibit them from using it, they will become outcasts. Yeah, but look, back in the 1980s and early 1990s, none of us were outcasts. We didn't have a frickin' phone. And we enjoyed good old face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball conversations. You know, what the heck is wrong with it? Somebody on here said, what a non-story. Of course they sleep with a mobile phone beside their bed. That is often where the plugs are and the bedside table. What, for charging it? So it makes sense you would plug it in there overnight and then sleep beside one. Not to mention mobile phones are the main source of alarm clocks. Not in my day, they weren't. Back in my day, you got this round thing, a clock, and um, battery-powered clock. You had the mechanism on the back, and you wound it up. You know, a wind-up mechanism, and you set the alarm on that thing. And then 7 o'clock in the morning came around, and whatever, and that was your alarm clock, like that. it's a non-story. Um, I'm going to indicate here perhaps why it's not such a non-story. So I've finished reading that article, BBC website. I'll scroll back up to the top. I'm going to put the link down below. Most children sleep with mobile phone beside bed. Article by Sean Coughlin. Right. So I read that article yesterday, and that triggered me into. Just hide that light behind me. That triggered me into other thoughts, which are the stuff I said I felt passionate about at the beginning of this video, which is going on quite a bit longer than I thought it would, actually. Yeah. Um, so now we get to the meat and potatoes of it all now. Yeah, I move the discussion now into why it's not a good idea to have a mobile phone switched on all night long and sitting right beside your head. Well, for one thing, mobile phones are emitting electromagnetic fields. Our brain operates using electromagnetic fields. Now, so the point I'm getting at here, and this is an experiment that I have conducted myself, by the way. So I'm speaking with some experience here to say there's a simple experiment that anybody can do, but people have become so addicted to. I haven't got it here at the moment, actually. It shows how much I don't use it. Where is it? Here it is. Right. So many people have been, and oh yeah, look. I'm clicking on, look. It's just a black screen. That's because I got it turned off. So many people have become addicted to this, the phone. The particular one I'm using is some old Windows mobile thing that I hardly ever use. Well, yeah. um, So many people have become addicted to that they wouldn't even be prepared to conduct the experiment that I'm suggesting right now. Because you're so addicted to the damn phone that you're not even prepared to turn it off. Right. So, when it comes to sleeping at night, here's an idea. This is the experiment that I conducted myself once, and I was astounded by the results, by the way. So, if people can muster themselves, um, if people can actually accept the idea that their mobile phone's not actually going to be on overnight, right? You've got to overcome that obstacle first. But you've got to go a bit further than that, and not just leave your phone switched off. Your bedroom must not have anything on that's electronic. So when it comes to overnight, not only do you have to turn off your mobile phone, right? You've got to turn off your Wi-Fi, you've got to turn off your modem router, that kind of stuff. If you do that, and you, in your bedroom, particularly the space around the bed, just, no switched on electronics of any kind, then you go to sleep. You will have the most amazing night's sleep. You'll wake up in the morning and you'll be like, that's the best damn night's sleep I've had in years. Based on my own experience myself. I'm, I'm drawing this from that. I tried it for myself and it is real. Um, I turned off all the Wi-Fi and cleared all the electronic stuff out of the bedroom, and I slept, and so I woke up in the morning and I felt so rested. Um, Theories as to why that is. Okay, so assuming that there is something in what I'm saying here, how come you feel like you get a much more restful night's sleep if you turn like the Wi-Fi and the phone off overnight? Well, it's pretty simple explanation, really. Wi-Fi, etc., the new 5G which is coming in right now, electromagnetic fields. The brain also operates using electromagnetic fields, and all of it is somehow interfering with each other. Which is like, you sleep with your mobile phone still switched on next to your head all night long. Then the Wi-Fi on that phone and the electromagnetic fields given out by that phone is somehow interfering with your own brain electromagnetic fields, and is creating this, for whatever reason, you're not having such a restful night's sleep. It's interfering with us, and maybe not in such a positive way. So, so what I've just described here, right, is a simple experiment. Anybody can try it if they want to. See for yourself what kind of results you get. So all you have to do is, before you go to sleep at night, disable your Wi-Fi, turn the router off, switch your phone off, go to sleep. It'll be interesting if some kind of survey could be done, regarding this. You have a pool A, a pool of people over here that leave it all switched on overnight, the mobile phone switched on next to your head, etc. And then you have pool B people, a science experiment. Pool B people over here turn the Wi-Fi, the routers off overnight, and the mobile phones off overnight. And you do a comparison, group A, group B, um, analyse the statistics about who gets the most restful night's sleep. And we'll see what happens. Let's do a science experiment. So, but we better be quick. Elon Musk has his way. 5G gets beamed everywhere. And when that happens, turning your router off at night probably ain't going to make a lot of difference, is it? Because on a side note, there's a little island not far off the coast from where I live. And it's a very small island. It's a tourist place for the summer and what have you. And so they have a very small community on this little island off the coast. And over there, they're very anti modern technology, but they have been in recent years. They they try to discourage people from accessing the internet while they're visiting, excuse me, the island off the coast. You know, discouraging the use of connecting to the internet. You're visiting a little remote island off the coast, enjoy it. Don't stare at a screen all day. That's another factor that I haven't mentioned during all of this so far. Uh, Along with the mobile phone addiction comes people staring at screens all day. People staring at screens for, shall we say, unhealthy amounts of time per day. So on this island, they've got this kind of anti-internet policy. Elon Musk has his way. 5G's beamed all over the world, including the little remote islands off the coastline and everywhere. Even the little, remember Tom Hanks' Castaway movie? Even those remote islands out in the middle of the bloody Pacific will be covered with Musk's 5G. So the future we're heading into now, Tom Hanks' Castaway movie wouldn't happen anymore because he'd get his mobile phone out and immediately call for help. And, helicopter or whatever would come along and immediately airlift him off the frickin' island. So we wouldn't have Castaway. um, that's important because, 5G comes along and is beamed literally everywhere. I can't imagine they're going to be too happy. That little island community off the coast. So they're not going to be too happy on having that enforced upon them, and they don't want it. They do not want it. They're happy living the old-fashioned way. There's the old-fashioned way, as in before the internet, before everybody stared at a screen all day. But speaking of which, you've got to stare at a screen to watch this video. So yeah, I know. So I've pretty much come to the end of what I was going to say. Ranting a bit, yeah, but it's something I feel passionate about. Interesting experiments to try. That's it, I guess. 34 minutes on the clock. Thanks for watching. See you again. Where the heck is the off